Alright guys, such coming again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Loads of reaction to the CDL fixtures being officially confirmed for the upcoming season. We know the first games in December, frankly we know the qualifiers all season long, but big reaction to the opening game of the entire season. OpTic Texas versus the now ReeaL Falcons. KiSMET gives his perspective, reckons the green wall gotta watch out. Shotzzy is not so convinced. That team will prove to be a serious threat. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Plenty to get into. This was a bit of drama that I wanted to touch on because the CDL Birmingham event in DreamHack in a few months' time was a big talking point yesterday because they sold out all the tickets and all this. They're going to try and find ways to open more tickets. Now, if you get a DreamHack ticket, you can walk into the CDL area, but if you want guaranteed seating, those tickets are gone for now. Now, there's a bit of drama about this because if you incentivize people to act in a certain way, don't be surprised when they do. And this is, I actually hadn't noticed this, but presumably you think the Challengers tickets are for playing in the Challengers tournament, which of course is true. But in addition to getting a Challengers ticket for 5 people, presumably 4 players and a coach, you also get guaranteed 3-day CDL seating access. Presumably also for those 5 people, right? So if you do the numbers, you'll find that if you buy your own 3-day ticket for £109, you get your 3-day CDL seating access there, but you can get 5 tickets effectively for less than 5 times the price, in addition to be able to play in the rest of challenges if you want to play the tournament. But effectively, if you've got, 4 mates and you're going as a quintet or whatever, I don't know, like let's say there's 10 of you, it's much more effective to buy 2 challengers tickets and get the guaranteed seating access that way than it is to actually buy the regular ticket. So I think this is a pretty major oversight really in terms of the pricing structure, because a lot of those, as Tom says, a lot of those challenger tickets, they're not actually going to play the tournament. Maybe they will for fun, but like they're just a group of lads, they're not a team, right? So there will be actual teams that will have missed out and want to play in challenges but won't be able to play because those tickets have gone to people that actually don't care about playing challenges. They just wanted a slightly discounted rate by effectively buying in bulk. So I think that's a pretty big oversight, and that is at least what it appears. And okay, you can blame the people for doing so, but like, you can't, it's just human nature, right? Like if you make the incentives a certain way, people would exploit it. It is what it is. I don't blame the people involved for taking advantage of the CDL or whoever messing up the ticket prices on this one. That's at least my take, and tweet your thoughts in the comments below. Let's talk about some of the drama though for the upcoming season. We've got some roster stuff to mention as well. The boys put this together. I will say I had no part in this, but it is good for engagement farming, I will say. What do you think about this tier list? Is it fair? Is it, like, I think it's reasonable when you look at the lower tiers, right? Now, you can go a few different ways. Falcons being in the C tier is kind of interesting because, look, it is a controversial roster for next season. The Falcons, is it going to be any good? Celium Preds, it's a good start. KiSMET, XNID, I like KiSMET. I think XNID's a solid player as well. Just don't know what I think about that team overall. And I think having them 7th behind the 6 teams above them is probably fair and justified. Whether they should be C tier or B tier or D tier or S tier or whatever, I guess will depend on how time goes. But yeah, I think reasonably enough, this isn't too bad. It's just interesting what the tiers end up being and whether you consider the tiers to be in order. Are Thieves in the same level as OpTic? In terms of like raw talent and absolute utmost ceiling, I think the answer is probably yes. In terms of the fact that OpTic just won the last 2 events and LA Thieves are picking up Kenny, and people will have serious questions about that. That's also a big question mark. Toronto, FaZe, Gentlemates being 3rd, if you want to look at it that way, is probably too ambitious for me. I mean, the team hasn't even been confirmed yet, so we'll see about that. I think Miami should still be solid, but probably not quite as good as when they had ReeaL, you would think in theory. Intrigued to your thoughts on that. But let's talk about the challenger side, because we did have some roster updates there yesterday involving none other than everyone's favourite TJ Halley. Now, this has been coming for a little bit of time, right? The guys over at Barstool, they've been looking to build a CDL roster, like the CDL team, but like they wanted a COD team, basically. They were talking about how they could make it happen. And they are indeed going to pick up a Challengers team, and it's a serious Challengers team. So Telluride Bush Gaming, they're picking up TJ, Proloot, Spartan, Capsule. Now, this is the quintessential challengers team. It doesn't get any more challengers than this, right? Unless, you know, maybe you bring in Brack, you bring in Stanley. Like, I don't know. This is like, it's the best challengers team I've ever heard. If I had to build a team that just lives and breathes, like, it just sounds like challengers. Prolute, Spark, Capsule, TJ, but a great team, right? And I think it's actually a really exciting possibility for them to play for the Barstool guys. And, you know, TJ, even though he's not in the league, secured a bit of a bag. I think it's interesting that TJ's not in the league, right? He's had a good couple of seasons. So for him to be starting in challenges is unfortunate for him, I guess. But still, it's not the end of the world, right? They're on a solid team. Tej, Capsule, Spartan, Prolutes. They're going to be competitive. I'd be very surprised if this team isn't competitive. Challenges is going to be ultra competitive this year with all the new names coming in and everything. But that's an exciting team to look for, how they get along. And also, it's a big year for challenges. Every single major, there's going to be a Challengers Open there. Even in the lead up to Christmas, there's like 3 cups on the lead up to Christmas, or 3 weekends of elite matches, or whatever it is. I think it is 3 cups. So there's lots of tournaments to be played, lots of exposure to get. Hopefully it's going to be a good year for challenges. As TJ says, excited for Black Ops 7. That's your roster. Tej, Prolute, Spartan, Capsule. So definitely will be considered by many kind of the team to beat in the start of challenges for the upcoming year. But, you know, time will tell. Some rosters in the CDL, maybe even based on what happens in the first month and a half or so in challenges. It happened last year with OpTic, right? It was very evident from right at the start of challenges that Huke was the man to get. They went and got him. The rest is history. Now, yesterday, it was confirmed actually the day before that Control is gone and Overload is in. Scump gave his thoughts and said, look, I kind of got used to Control. We'll see how it goes. Look, it's going to be kind of messy. Overload is still very much in testing as it stands. There are going to be some interesting, controversial decisions and moments and everything. I also do wonder what it means for some of the players that were better at Control. If you look at the most championships won in the Control era, if you call it that, BO4, then returning for Cold War to Black Ops 6, Simp, aBeZy, Celium, dominating the numbers there. Drazah not far behind. Again, is this just because it was Control? Evidently not. But it was true in Cold War, for example. And generally speaking, that FaZe trio were just phenomenal at Control, right? Just because of the slaying power and everything, especially Cold War, FaZe were unbelievable at Control. And we've seen some other great Control teams like this year, for example, Thieves were really, really strong at Control for a large period of the season. So just that being gone is interesting. Doesn't mean they won't also be good at the next game mode, but it is worth saying that some players, for example, back in the day, you know, a Clayster, maybe a TP, Proofy or whatever, I don't know, I'm just thinking of names, but, you know, good at capture the flag players. I think JCap as well was known to, actually, yeah, JCap was probably the guy that I'm really thinking of. Great capture the flag player. So there might be something in that when we go to a new game and moving away from Control, but we also do have the CDL schedule, not in terms of events, we've already discussed that, but in terms of the actual qualifier upcoming games. Now, it's very clear that they've designed these, right, to be maximally entertaining, and as well they should, in my opinion. You should start the season with Toronto versus Miami. It's a great rivalry that's not been randomly generated, right? There's nobody who's going to be able to tell me that. Now, the Falcons, they have a pretty challenging opening weekend. If you agree or disagree with our tier list earlier on in the video, they play the 2 S-tier teams in the very first week, and on day 1, they're going to play the reigning champions OpTic Texas. So loads of great storylines in this. I mean, Celium and OpTic, obviously with FaZe, have had a pretty good rivalry for some time. There's going to be so many eyeballs on this match, and I think for the Falcons, there's going to be loads of eyeballs on their team anyway, because it's a controversial team, and also on Celium. Just because the amount of money that we think Cell got paid to go there, he could have gone to Thieves, maybe he could have stayed on FaZe, right? There were some other options for Cell, but he went to the Falcons. I can't blame him for doing so, but the question, you know, there is some level of pressure on Celium to prove that he's not just gone there for the money, right? Maybe Cell's making so much money he doesn't care, but I think there is something in that, right? There will be pressure if the team doesn't win. Cell's going to get roasted, although, as I say, I'm not sure how much he's going to care, really. But the point is, that's a big game to start the season. There's going to be loads of eyeballs on it. And, well, this is what KiSMET had to say, and then we'll have a look at Shotzzy's tweet in greater detail.
Chat. The schedule is already out. We start off against OpTic. Come here! Oh, I'm at a... Oh. Nah, take that green wall out of here. I'm coming, green wall. Yeah. Oh, I'm about to... Oh. I'm about to make AG float. AG's floating. Friday, December 5th? That's hella soon. Wait, so first match I play against OpTic. Damn, they really throwing me in the bullshit. They really put me against OpTic and LAT first match. First weekend. LAT and then OpTic. AG's about to be on some shit. Brian, I swear to God, I didn't know this. I didn't know this. I actually don't. I mean, I saw the same leaks everyone else saw.
KiSMET feeling pretty good for that opening game of the season. Of course, also, as he mentions, worth noting the Pred angle, right? Because we did see the matchup towards the end of last season when Pred had done up on the Falcons, but again, and to be fair, at some time last season, Falcons versus OpTic was actually a pretty tasty matchup, as we know, because of those teams duking it out of the bottom of the field for some time anyway, before the big turnaround at the end of the season. I do wonder whether we'll ever see a little bit more on the whole Pred saga with OpTic when the process eventually arrives, which we guess it will maybe at some point. But, assuming that it does come along eventually, maybe we're going to get a further little bit into what happened with Pred and OpTic. But the reality is, I don't think there's any crazy drama there between Pred and OpTic, but it's still an interesting storyline that they won with him in 2024, right? And then 2025, they won again, this time without him. So Pred versus OpTic is always going to be entertaining. He's going to bring the energy for sure. But Shotzzy's like, look, if I don't shoot KiSMET's body, we should be good. So we know that last season, we'll see if Shotzzy's learned his lesson, right? Last year, the tweets he was dropping back in January, like all these other terrible teams don't know how to play the game and all this, shooting bodies, bringing the confidence. And look, when you look back on the year in hindsight, it worked out beautifully. But for a good chunk of that year, it was not looking especially good. So Shotzzy's like, all right, I'll try not to shoot Kiz's body. We should be able to handle business in this one. But an exciting first game of the season nonetheless. These are, if you're interested, all of OpTic's schedule. You can find this out for your favourite team as well on the CDL schedule website, but Texas Bird have put it together here for OpTic. Their qualifiers go as follows. Falcons, then Rokkr, no longer Rokkr, G2, Heretics, FaZe, Surge, Thieves and Ravens. So they play both FaZe and Thieves in their first stints, and I mean, I was thinking Surge as if they were still competitive, and maybe they will be, right? But obviously a very different Surge team to what we had last year. The Major 2 qualifiers, of course, they play everyone, as we know. That is how that weekend is going to, those couple of weekends are going to go over all those different weekends. So yeah, they play everyone. I guess the order is kind of interesting. They play FaZe on March the 7th. Again, Thieves on the 28th of February. So those are a couple of dates to keep in mind. The final qualifiers, there's only 5 of them. That's because there's a minor tournament in there as well. It's kind of my point, right, for Major 1. On one of those weekends, I think 7 qualifiers for the first major is fine. They could have found a way to do another minor. Would I prefer 5 qualifiers and a minor, or 7 qualifiers, no minor? You know, I'm taking the former, right? But they're going to do that for the final 3. You can see their matches here. So they play FaZe in the Major 3 qualifiers, and Toronto, and Gentlemates, and Boston and Cloud9. And then Major 4 qualifiers, they don't play Thieves either, nor FaZe. So pretty interesting. They've only got 2 scheduled matches against Thieves and FaZe all season in the qualifiers. As I say, in the minor tournaments, Major 3, Major 4, we may well see it happen. Actually, no, there's 3 against FaZe, aren't there? There's only 2 against Thieves. So kind of interesting. We're probably going to see that happen plenty at the major tournaments anyway, so I'm not too concerned about it. But as always, very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.
You, Miles, what did you think about Overload, the new game mode for BO?
This is big. This is actually really big. No more control in the CDL. I don't know how people feel about that. From looking at socials, it looked like a lot of people were happy about control being out. Listen, control, it wasn't the best. It's not the best. But I've kind of gotten used to watching control and it being the 3rd game mode. Okay? Now, I hope Overload is fire. I hope it plays well. We saw it a little bit throughout the beta. I hope it plays well. Because control was kind of always, again, it wasn't the best mode, but it was consistent and it was always there, and it's a mode that we could rely on. Now we're switching it up. I hope that Overload is good.